The Galactic Council chamber, a sprawling expanse of gleaming metals and holographic projections, buzzed with uneasy energy. Delegates from hundreds of star systems filled the tiers, their voices low, their expressions tense. The usual decorum had vanished, replaced by whispered fears and darting glances toward the one glaring absence in the room, the human delegation. For decades, humans had been a wild card in galactic politics. Their rise from a single-planet species to a formidable interstellar power had been swift and, to many, unsettling. But they had always engaged in diplomacy, always maintained some level of discourse, until now. Without warning, the human delegation had walked out of the last council session. No explanations. No formal announcements. Just a silent, unified departure that left the chamber in stunned silence. And now, days later, every attempt to re-establish contact had been met with deafening silence. "They're planning something," hissed Counselor Vrex of the Zythar Dominion, his scales shimmering with anxiety. "Humans don't just vanish. They act. Perhaps they're simply tired of our endless debates," suggested Ambassador Clore of the Valari, her translucent skin pulsing with subdued light. "Humans are impatient creatures." "Impatience doesn't explain cutting off all communication," countered Chancellor Rovin of the Myrick Coalition. "This is more than frustration. This is a statement." The murmurs grew louder, the fear palpable. Everyone in that chamber knew the power humans wielded, their technological advancements, their unpredictable strategies, and most of all, their unyielding resilience. The galaxy had seen it before in conflicts where humans had been pushed to the brink only to emerge stronger, more determined, and often more ruthless. "We must send an envoy," declared Supreme Speaker Zaltor, his voice booming through the chamber. "We cannot afford to let this silence fester. If we do not act now, we may find ourselves facing consequences far beyond our control." But as the Council debated their next move, across the void of space, humanity was already preparing. Not for war but for something far more disruptive, a complete and total withdrawal from galactic cooperation. And the galaxy, dependent on human innovation and trade, was about to learn just how fragile their interconnected systems truly were without the species they had underestimated for far too long. The silence that followed Earth's withdrawal echoed louder than any declaration of war. Across the vast expanse of the galaxy, from the towering spires of the Varnak homeworld to the crystalline halls of the Zorthian Confederacy, the same question rippled through every political chamber and military command center. What are the humans planning? In the heart of the Galactic Council's headquarters, Ambassador Serix of the Zorthian Confederacy stood before the assembly, his usually calm, shimmering form pulsing with anxiety. "We cannot underestimate them," he urged, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Humanity's silence is not submission. It is a prelude to something far more dangerous." The assembly murmured in uneasy agreement. They had all witnessed humanity's unpredictable nature before, their capacity to adapt, to innovate, and most importantly to retaliate when pushed too far. But never before had humans simply walked away, cutting off all channels of diplomacy with such chilling finality. Back on Earth, in the shadow of the United Earth Command, General Elena Vasquez stared at the encrypted messages pouring in from concerned allies and suspicious rivals. She deleted them all without reading. Earth had made its decision. Now they would see who truly held the power in this galaxy. "Status update," she barked, turning to her aide, Lieutenant Parker. "Fleet mobilization at 75%, ma'am. Project Veil is active and operational. All Black Ops units are in position," Parker reported, his face a mask of professional detachment. But Vasquez could see the flicker of excitement in his eyes. The same flicker mirrored in her own. They had been preparing for this moment. The Council thought Earth needed their trade routes and political alliances. They were wrong. Earth had been playing the long game, weaving a web of influence and technological advancement beneath the Council's very noses. Meanwhile, on the Council's flagship orbiting the neutral planet of Zirith, panic was setting in. The Varnak ambassador, a towering figure with scales that shimmered under the chamber's light, slammed his clawed hand against the table. "We must act now," he roared. "Deploy our fleets to Earth's borders. Show them that defiance will not be tolerated." But Serix shook his translucent head. "And risk provoking them further? We know what humans are capable of when cornered. They're not like other species. They don't break, they evolve." Despite Serix's warnings, the Council voted to increase military presence near Earth's territories. It was a mistake they would soon regret. In the depths of space, Earth's fleets moved silently, cloaked by technology the Council hadn't even begun to comprehend. While the Council flexed its muscles, Earth struck in the shadows, crippling supply lines, sabotaging communication networks, and turning the Council's own allies against them through a series of well-orchestrated psychological operations. On the ground, special ops teams executed precise missions that destabilized key Council worlds. No one knew where the attacks were coming from or how the humans were able to infiltrate so deeply. Panic turned into paranoia. The Council's unity began to fracture. General Vasquez watched it all unfold from her command center on Earth, a slight smile playing on her lips. "Let them squirm," she murmured. "They wanted to see what happens when humans walk away. They're about to find out." As the days turned into weeks, the Council's desperation grew. The Varnak ambassador's once booming voice became a hoarse whisper of fear. Serex's warnings went unheeded until it was too late. One by one, Council systems went dark, their infrastructures collapsing under the weight of Earth's silent war. The final blow came not from a fleet or an army, but from a simple message broadcasted across the galaxy. "You thought we needed you," Vasquez's voice echoed through every Council chamber, every homeworld, every outpost. "But it's you who needed us. Remember that?" The transmission ended, leaving only silence, the same silence Earth had greeted the Council with weeks before. But now, it was a silence filled with fear and the undeniable realization that humanity was a force the galaxy could no longer control. As the Galactic Council scrambled to pick up the pieces, Earth stood united and unchallenged. The game had changed and humanity had proven once and for all that when they say, "Fine, we'll handle it," the galaxy should be very, very afraid. The silence that followed Earth's abrupt withdrawal reverberated across the galaxy, sending shockwaves through the political and military hierarchies of countless species. The Galactic Council's once unified chambers were now divided into factions, each struggling to comprehend the implications of humanity's decision. Some feared it was a prelude to war, others suspected a grander, more insidious plan unfolding in the shadows. On Earth, the leaders of the newly established Unified Human Coalition gathered in a fortified bunker deep beneath Geneva. The room was filled with representatives from every nation, military commanders, and the brightest minds humanity had to offer. General Amelia Reyes, now the de facto leader of Earth's defense forces, stood at the center of the room, her sharp gaze scanning the room as the holographic map of the galaxy rotated behind her. "We've made our move," Reyes began, her voice steady and commanding. "The question now is, how will they respond?" Dr. Elena Wu, a leading strategist and political analyst, stepped forward. "The Council will panic. They've never dealt with a unified Earth before. They're used to playing us against each other, exploiting our divisions. Now that we've closed ranks, they're blind to our next move." Admiral Marcus Stone, the commander of Earth's newly developed space fleet, nodded in agreement. "They'll likely send envoys, try to re-establish communication. But the longer we maintain radio silence, the more unstable they'll become. And instability breeds mistakes." Rhea's eyes narrowed. "Good. We'll use that. But we need to be ready for every possible scenario, diplomatic, economic, and military. Prepare our fleets but keep them in defensive positions. No aggression unless provoked." Meanwhile, in the heart of the Galactic Council, chaos reigned. The once orderly and disciplined assembly was now a cacophony of raised voices and frantic debates. Chancellor Valor of the Zorasian Dominion slammed his fist on the podium, his bioluminescent skin pulsing with agitation. "Humans are unpredictable. Their silence is a declaration of defiance. We must act swiftly before they destabilize the entire galactic order." Ambassador Lirita of the peaceful Sylvanian clade raised her delicate vine-like arms in a gesture of calm. "We must not jump to conclusions. Humanity has always been volatile, but they value diplomacy. We should seek dialogue, not conflict." The debate raged on, but beneath the surface, a more insidious narrative began to take hold. The Vraxian Syndicate, a shadowy conglomerate of mercenaries and war profiteers, saw an opportunity. In the void left by Earth's withdrawal, they began to whisper in the ears of the more aggressive Council members, fueling fears and stoking the fires of war. Back on Earth, Reyes received intelligence reports of increased military activity along the Council's borders. She called an emergency meeting, her face grim as she addressed her team. "They're mobilizing," she announced. "We've intercepted communications indicating that several factions within the Council are preparing for a preemptive strike. They fear we're planning an offensive, and they want to hit us before we can hit them." Dr. Wu frowned, tapping on her data pad. "This is exactly what we predicted. Their fear is making them reckless. But we can turn this to our advantage." Reyes nodded. "We leak false intelligence. Let them believe we're developing a new weapon, something catastrophic. It will force them to divert resources, create distrust among their ranks. And while they're busy chasing shadows, we strengthen our alliances with other independent systems. Admiral Stone added, and we ensure our defenses are impenetrable. If they come for us, they'll find Earth is no longer the easy target they remember. As Earth executed its strategy, the Galactic Council's internal divisions deepened. Accusations flew, alliances fractured, and what was once a unified body began to splinter. Smaller, independent systems watched from the sidelines, some quietly aligning themselves with Earth, intrigued by humanity's defiance and resilience. In the shadows of this galactic upheaval, a secret meeting took place. Representatives from various marginalized and oppressed species gathered in a hidden enclave on a remote moon. They were the ones who had suffered under the Council's iron grip, and they saw in Earth's rebellion a beacon of hope. Humanity has shown us that resistance is possible, said Karin, a reptilian leader of the oppressed Draxtari people. If we unite, we can challenge the Council's tyranny. The seeds of a larger rebellion were sown, and Earth's silent defiance became the catalyst for a movement that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy. As tensions reached a boiling point, the Council made its move. A fleet of warships, the largest ever assembled, set course for Earth. But humanity was ready. General Reyes stood on the bridge of the UNS Dauntless, Earth's flagship, as the alien armada approached. The holographic display showed the overwhelming numbers of the enemy fleet, but Reyes' expression remained resolute. They think they can intimidate us, she said, her voice steady. But they've underestimated humanity for the last time. As the first shots were fired, the galaxy watched in awe and fear. The battle for Earth had begun, but the true war was for the soul of the galaxy, and humanity was leading the charge. Section 3. The void of space stretched endlessly beyond the shattered remnants of what was once the Galactic Council's most secure diplomatic outpost. The holographic banners that had once proudly displayed the symbols of unity among the galaxy's most powerful civilizations now floated aimlessly, torn apart by the very forces they sought to control. The humans had cut all ties, and the ripple effects of that decision had plunged the galaxy into chaos. In the heart of the chaos, Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the command deck of the UNS Resolute, her sharp gaze fixed on the tactical display that mapped the positions of every known fleet in the sector. The humans had retreated from diplomacy, but they hadn't retreated from power. Their fleets were now a silent wall of steel and firepower, an unspoken warning to any who dared test their patience. Status report, Elena commanded, her voice steady despite the tension that coiled in the air around her. All fleets are holding position, Admiral, replied Commander Malik, her second-in-command. No movements from the Council's forces, but we're detecting increased chatter across their secure channels. They're nervous? Good, Elena murmured. Let them sweat. While the galaxy's leaders scrambled to understand humanity's abrupt withdrawal, Elena and her team had a different mission. They knew that cutting off diplomacy wasn't just a political statement, it was a strategic maneuver. The Council had underestimated humanity's resilience and unity, assuming that without formal alliances Earth would be vulnerable. They were wrong. As the Council descended into panic, factions within its own ranks began to fracture. Old rivalries resurfaced, and the thin veneer of cooperation that had held the galaxy together began to crack. Humanity had seen this coming. They had prepared for it. Elena turned to Malik, her eyes narrowing. Initiate Operation Echo. It's time to remind them why they should have never underestimated us. Malik nodded and relayed the command. Across the fleet, ships powered up, their engines humming with barely restrained energy. But it wasn't an attack order. Operation Echo was something far more insidious. A coordinated effort to expose the Council's corruption and manipulation, using the very information humanity had gathered during years of diplomatic relations. Within hours, encrypted data packets began broadcasting across every major communication network in the galaxy. Leaked documents, intercepted transmissions, and damning evidence of the Council's betrayals flooded the airwaves. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the truth unraveled before their eyes. In the Council's central chamber, chaos reigned. Ambassadors shouted over each other, their faces twisted with fear and rage. The carefully constructed image of unity crumbled as accusations flew. Humanity had played their hand perfectly, they didn't need to fire a single shot to bring the Council to its knees. But Elena knew this was only the beginning. The real challenge was maintaining control over the situation as the galaxy teetered on the brink of war. She needed to ensure that humanity emerged not just unscathed but stronger than ever. Admiral, incoming transmission from the Andarian delegation, Malik announced. "They're requesting an audience." Elena allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. "Put them through." The holographic display flickered, revealing the stern face of High Chancellor Varric of the Andarian Empire. His eyes, usually filled with disdain when addressing humans, now reflected a grudging respect and fear. "Admiral Vasquez," Varric began, his voice carefully measured. "It seems we've underestimated your people." "Yes, you have," Elena replied without missing a beat. "And now you're going to fix that mistake." Negotiations began anew, but this time humanity held all the cards. Elena dictated the terms with precision, ensuring that Earth's sovereignty and strength were recognized unequivocally. The Council had learned the hard way that humanity wasn't just another player in the galactic game, they were a force to be reckoned with. As the final agreements were signed and the Council's power restructured, Elena stood at the helm of a new era. Humanity had not only survived the diplomatic fallout, they had turned it into their greatest victory. Back on Earth, news of the Council's collapse and humanity's rise spread like wildfire. The people celebrated not just their leaders, but the collective spirit that had brought them through adversity. Elena knew that this victory wasn't hers alone, it belonged to every human who had refused to be underestimated. Years later, as peace settled over the galaxy and humanity took its rightful place as a leading power, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Cutting off diplomacy had been a gamble, but it had paid off in ways no one could have predicted. Humanity had proven that their strength didn't lie in treaties or alliances, but in their unyielding spirit and their ability to adapt and overcome. The galaxy would never forget the day humans walked away from the negotiating table, because it was the day they changed the universe forever. If this story of resilience and strategic brilliance inspired you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more incredible tales of humanity's journey among the stars. Your support helps us continue sharing these epic stories of courage and triumph.